You were mentioning that you don't have a lot of memory and there's a lot of gray areas. And I'm curious because I think memory is one of those things that it's, like what I was going to say is, for example, if I ask you to think of something from yesterday, so like just for obviously the people listening that aren't living our lives together, like we were at a barbecue yesterday together. So think of something from yesterday, right?
Okay.
And then suddenly you kind of have, however your memory works, but you start to have like a visualization, so events start coming back to you, right? And you have an overall kind of view, and then you're like, you can hone in a little bit and pick like think about when we were in the basement and you were, showing Asher all the stuff, right? And now you can go into that moment, and then that memory can kind of start to take shape and flesh out a little bit more. I think all memory works that way, where we can go towards it and clear out some of the fog, clear out some of the stuff. And I think there's plenty of things that affect memory. I think there's definitely, blank period. All of those things are definitely the case. But I feel like, at least in my experience, it's like anything else where the more I practice it, the easier it is, and the more stuff that I can get, more stuff can come back and come through. And then what I've learned is, because the struggle is always like, is it real?
Yeah.
Right? Is this a real memory, or am I making shit up, or am I putting together pieces from other people's stories, or the picture that was hung in the hallway that I used to walk by my entire life? All of that stuff gets in the way of me validating the real memory. And so what I've learned, or not learned, like I studied this and
I read a book.
Exactly.
Leather-bound books.
But what has really helped me was getting rid of that idea that it's right or wrong, or that it's true or it's real or it's that it's not a real memory, and just going towards the space because of what I feel like what I've gained from it. So if I'm going back and I'm trying to remember something, especially time periods in my life that are traumatic and that are hard and that are difficult and that I don't have a lot of memories about, the struggle for me is always like, I don't want to spend time and energy trying to remember something if it's not real. And I think that alone has kept me at a safe distance from things that were too difficult and hard and painful for me to feel. And instead of just going towards it with this understanding that some of it might be quote unquote real, some of it might be fabricated based off of lived experience. It might be a conglomeration of a bunch of different things. But the emotion, the energy, the feeling that I can get, and then also the stuff that I can actually uncover and reveal and find, far outweighs the cost of like, well, is this real or isn't this real? I'm not structuring my life around a memory necessarily that is hazy or blurry, and now I've completely shifted. I mean, truthfully, actually, you know what? I have actually done that. I've got my whole life fucking changed based off of memories that,
who you are today is different because you've gone back through.
Exactly. And so I'm just curious, is it like, I don't know if that resonates with you. I don't know if you've tried. I don't know if that's something that you're like, or you're just like, yep, I'm fine this way and I'm moving forward this way.
I definitely, so for me, looking at my memories, right? I don't have, and occasionally like, so this has happened to me a bunch, right? Is like my mom will tell a story and I'll just look at her and she's like, and I'm like, this is the first time I'm hearing this, right? There are some, I like markers in time that I can go back to. I remember, like, I think we buried, like, my mom had a cat that killed a bird that we buried in this house that we lived in. That is one of like 3 memories I have of that. We lived there for 2 years, right? I don't have a lot of memories of that time. That's the marker that I can have. But like other things that happened in that time frame, like if it's not one of those markers I have today, I don't know. So it's really hard for me to go back and think about those, because even that, I remember that picture of this, but I don't remember much more about it, right? I mean, like, even the fact that, like, my mom's mom, she died of cancer. She lived with us for a while, and I have 1 or 2 memories of that entire time.
So you just said your mom's mom?
My mom's mom, yeah.
So you mean your grandma?
My grandma, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, grandma, yeah, yep. Grandma Diane, right? Grandma Spector. I was 8 when this all happened, and like I have very few memories of a lot of that, right? Like it's just not a ton. So it's hard for me to go back to that. What I think that I tend to do is I don't go back and think about things that happened to me and how that is, and I don't process all that. I look at who I am right now, what are the things that I don't like, and and to be honest, actually, I don't tend to think so much about the things that I don't like, and I try to think about the things that I want, and I use those to change my subconscious into the things. Like when I meet a new team member, I spend a lot of time interviewing, asking them questions. It's very Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends, Influence People. Like I ask them, tell me more about them, and that helps them like me more. So I know more about them. That helps me build a picture of who they are, which helps me when it comes to like leadership stuff. But I don't really use past memories or the things that have happened to me and how I would think about them and process them to change who I am today. I'm fucking awesome.
I think you're fucking awesome
I think
too,
you're
dude.
fucking awesome.
Right? I mean, there's a part of my like little kid brain
I'm
that's
sorry, I'm taking
like,
a real serious thing.
No, you're good. It's because it's like, it's hard for me to see things like genuinely. It's hard for me to be like, why not? Like, why would you not do it this way?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I've gained so much from the process
100%.
of being able to go back and reflect.
I think it's
and put
great.
pieces together.
Yeah.
Because it's the layer, like I understand where you're coming from as well, is it's like this stuff that, what do I want? How do I achieve it? How do I move forward in life where I'm at today? And it's not even like fuck the past. I'm not going to look at the past, but it's like, it's not necessary to achieve what I want to achieve right now in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And and when I say pushback, it's not like pushback, but my only counter to that is like, are there areas in your life that that's not working for?
Mm. Yeah, it would probably be. Ooh, that's a really solid question. There's probably some areas that if I really wanted to dive more like introspectively on myself on that we could probably find some of those and work on those things. Yes. I believe that, and it's hard to like trauma for me. Like, I don't think a lot about the trauma that I had as a kid and how that has affected me as much. The trauma for me is like my time in the Marine Corps, like that. Like I had a big triggering moment yesterday, right? Steph totally got me, and it wasn't her. Like I don't look at Steph and be like, fucking triggered me.
Yeah.
I don't remember. We were talking about religion, and here in the great state of Tennessee, this is it's a bigger part of culture here than where we were living in San Diego.
Yeah.
Right. And I had mentioned that our school, not my school, the kids' school, they were like, hey, we're going to do this Christmas assembly. And they started with a prayer, which was just way different. We never did that where I went to high school up in Michigan. And it was like, it was so different for me. Right. Mm-hmm. And I had said, I was like, I am respectful when somebody's like, hey, I'm not like, we don't do this stuff. This is at school. Division, church, it's great.
Yeah.
Right. I don't do that, but I want to be respectful of this. Okay, everybody's going to bow my head. What got me is like, there would be very few times where we would, I'm going to do my best to like share this without it triggering me. Cause I don't want to deal with that right now, but there are a few times in the military where you would like have a gathering and they would say a prayer. That time is funerals. And that's when we would do that. And I went to a bunch of those.
Yeah.
So it's one of those, like, I was like, oh yeah. As soon as we were talking about that, I had that And I was like, oh, totally hit me. I was like, cool. And then like I sat there for a minute, tried to like, and it was like, get that shit back in the box. I don't want to deal with you right now. We're having fun. And I was like, I'm getting up. I'm sweating now, and I'm going to go somewhere else and talk about something else because this bothered me so much. But I definitely think so. Like, I look at a lot of the trauma that I had from my time in the military and the things that happened and the things that I had to witness and deal with and do and all that. That is a bigger deal for me than the things that happened when I was a kid, right? The things that happened when I was a kid shaped who I am today 100%. There's no doubt about that. But the bigger trauma that I deal with is from that. Like that's what catches me. That's what gives me the sweats.
Yeah.
Is that stuff. Not my dad beating the shit out of my brother for being an idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
I totally get that.
Yeah.
I think that I mean, a lot of what I moved through in the last 10 years has been that, where it's not even looking at my childhood as trauma, just looking at it as, well, yeah, it's fucking childhood.
Yeah.
It's just lived experience, right?
Yeah.
It was just me. And a lot of it was like, oh yeah, it was great. I had a great childhood. And I did. Like, I have a very clear perception where I can look at my childhood and be like, I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Fucking had a great time.
Yep.
You know, it was a time period in life where I'm sure it still exists in some places and in some regards, but riding bikes, staying out all night, you know, like having the type of childhood that you would almost
I don't think
see.
it exists anymore.
I feel like it's got to in some regards.
No, because
it's different, but it still exists in some areas and places. And
I think the world's changed too much.
For sure. But, you know, I look at my childhood through that lens, and that's how I moved forward in life. And then it was the same thing. It's like I've got shit from adulthood that I've got to get through, that I've got to process, that I've got to heal from, fix, solve, figure out, all that kind of different stuff. And what I found was that I couldn't ever get ahead of the curve on adult trauma. And not only that, I was continually I couldn't ever get ahead of the curve on just life in general. Like, I couldn't ever really get my shit squared away. I couldn't ever really get stuff headed in the direction of like being a fucking adult. And the story and the narrative was always around what was going on in my current life and, you know, the things that I've gone through and experienced as an adult. And it wasn't until I went back and understood, because it's like you said, it shaped and molded who I am today. And it's like, you know, I can't do anything about that. But it also shaped and molded, like we were talking earlier, the subconscious things and the default mode.
Yep.
And so the way that I operate and move through life today is directly at least for me, I feel like is directly correlated to childhood.
Yes.
And correlated to both positive and negative experiences from childhood. And it hasn't been until I've been able to put those pieces together that things actually changed. And then the trauma that I've had as an adult and the stuff that I've had to go through as an adult, it's not to say like it was easier or less difficult or less challenging, but I felt more capable at navigating it. And
Gotcha.
I look at it from the lens of like emotional maturity, where at some point along the way, little Craig got emotionally stunted. Didn't have the capacity for emotion. Some of the stuff that we're talking about at the beginning of the episode, it's clear, right?
Yeah.
The self-harm, all those kind of different things, those maladaptive coping mechanisms come from not having the full breadth of what emotional maturity is and how to process and feel emotion and go through life, because life is such an emotional experience. And so it's like putting pieces together, and it's the reparenting process. It's going back and teaching versions of myself throughout, you know, life that, yeah, that was a really shitty experience that you had to go through and navigate, and how you felt and how you responded and how you moved through life after that fact. Like, that sucks. That's hard. And I like validating those different parts of me, seeing those different parts of me, and then learning how to almost like I said, reparent that part of myself. And then fast forward, I can see it play out in how I'm interacting with people. I can see it play out in our relationship, in our friendship. My ability to be able to show up differently here in this space with you is directly correlated to what I've been able to do in regards to going back and processing things from the past.